Please welcome Janet Kinkade.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It is so fun to be here, and that's very nice of you to all show up and be so excited. I am also very excited to be here. I've been talking to Tyler a little bit and explaining that through all the business I've done and the hard things I've done, public speaking still tends to be one of my hardest things. So, even though your business grows and changes and evolves and becomes very successful, some things don't change, and that's why I'm here today, because not only will this hopefully inspire and help you, but it also helps my own personal growth, which I think is so important to continue throughout our journey of business. So I am very excited to be here today. I had a nice drive down. I live up in Alpine, Utah, have been there for about 18 years, and I just love it there, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this is my first time on this campus, and so this is really exciting for me, and it's beautiful down here, and I'm just really thrilled to be here with all of you. So just to give you a little bit of history, and then I'll kind of get into my story. I am definitely here to share my story, and I hope that that will inspire you somehow. I am not here to tell you how to start a business, because that is different for everybody based on your circumstances. But I love that this class is full of young students who have that entrepreneurial mindset. That means you have a passion for something, that you're excited about something. And I wish I could just read all of your minds to know what it is that you are excited about today. And I hope that something I say will inspire you to just push through and follow that dream, because that's really what it takes, is passion and follow through. So I'm super excited to be here. Like Tyler said, my story starts about 12 years ago with my business. But to just give you a little bit of history, which is a lot because I'm kind of old. I'm actually an old grandma. I've got 2 grandkids now. I actually grew up in Utah in Pleasant Grove, and I attended BYU. Before I went to BYU, though, I did get my associate's degree at, it was called Utah Technical College back then. It's UVU now. But I did 2 years at UVU and then transferred to BYU and studied fashion merchandising, which was really fun. I wanted to work in retail my whole life, or go to New York and be a big fashion buyer or designer or whatever it was. I had big dreams in the fashion industry and studied fashion merchandising, which doesn't exist anymore. It was part of the clothing and textiles department, which has now just become a business degree. So I studied fashion merchandising, got married my senior year, and my husband and I moved to Spokane, Washington, where he attended law school. And I worked at Nordstrom's while he was in law school. I had my first child and worked retail hours, late nights and holidays, and it was really hard. And I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing in the retail industry? What have I done? But luckily, after he graduated from law school, I was able to just be a stay-at-home mom for about 16 years, and I had 5 kids during that time. So I had a great career being a stay-at-home mom for a really long time. So that's kind of my background as far as my interest in schooling. So, but now, and I do use notes. I hope that's okay, because like I said, I get kind of nervous speaking. So I follow my notes to kind of stay on track, and I hope that's okay. But I just kind of want to give you my story about my business, which has just become such an important part of who I am and my life, my kids' life, my family, my community. So much has happened because I followed my passion for design, and I stuck to it through some really hard times and tricky circumstances in my life that could have led me in a different direction. I stayed true to what I loved, and it landed me in a really great place. So it really started, like I said, about 12 years ago. And my kids were young. I was doing soccer practice and changing diapers. My girls were on ski team. We were doing family vacations, all kinds of stuff, just living that normal life, and definitely not talking about sales projections and Pantone colors and all the things that I do now. But my days were filled with homework and being with my kids. And along with the love of my kids, I had 4 daughters at the time, And then 6 years later, I had a baby boy, Jack. And so suddenly I had these 5 little kids, and my life just felt complete. And we were just kind of living the dream. And I was being a stay-at-home mom, and life was wonderful. So not complaining about that. And after my son, Jack, all of my passions just kind of aligned. Being a mother, being creative, staying home and doing crafts and cooking and doing all those fun things with my kids. And I knew that these moments were precious while my kids were young, and I wanted them to last, and I wanted to remember them. And I wanted to find a piece of jewelry that I could kind of wear to show that passion for my family with my kids in it somehow. But I couldn't quite find what I was looking for at the time. This totally ages me, but maybe your parents or your mom used to wear these. 15 years ago, the piece of jewelry that we would buy and wear to represent our kids were these little stick figure birthstone charms. I don't know if you remember them. The head was the birthstone, and it had these little dangly legs and arms, and you'd wear 5 of those if you had 5 kids and represent their birthstones. And I thought, oh, that's just such a goofy thing. I don't want to wear that. So I spent some time trying to figure out a way that I could make a piece of jewelry to represent my 5 kids and wear it proudly. So when I couldn't find what I was looking for, I decided I could make it myself. Growing up, I had a mother who made everything. And when I was young, I wasn't such a fan of that. She made our bread, she made our furniture, she sewed all of our school clothes. And it was just like, man, can we just buy something? But, we weren't financially very well off. And so for her, it was very economical to make things. And so even school shopping for us meant going to the local store to shop for clothes, and my mom would sketch everything down. She would draw the cute designer jeans with like the piping down the leg and the cute pocket and all the fun tops, and then she'd go home and make it. And I was a little embarrassed that all my school clothes were handmade by my mom, but now I'm so proud of that. And what that taught me is that anything is possible. And so as I was looking for a way to kind of make a piece of jewelry to show off my kids, and I couldn't find it, I was like, well, I'll make it. That's what my mom taught me, right? So I learned early on that if you really want to figure something out, you can. And I took a few classes on jewelry design. It wasn't quite what I was looking for. My favorite class was a stained glass class. I took at Thanksgiving Point at the Holdman Studios, and I learned how to make stained glass. Now, fast forward that to jewelry, I was able to create a little glass frame, and I would print on a piece of canvas a photo or an initial or just an artistic design and solder it inside that piece of glass to make a little pendant. I know you can't see this, but kind of a little stained glass piece of jewelry. And you've probably seen these because after I started this company, these kind of showed up everywhere, because in Utah we're creative and we make everything we see. But it was the stained glass class that really launched me into this technique of jewelry that I was able to evolve into a business. So after I settled on a process of the type of jewelry, and I put my kid's picture in there, and I was wearing these things, suddenly all of my friends and family were like, where'd you get that? I want one. And so to my surprise and shock, suddenly they were asking me to make a piece of jewelry for them. And I was like, all right. So I started making jewelry for all my friends and neighbors, and then it got a little bit too busy, so I started to make some pieces that I could sell out of my home, and I would open up my home like once a month and make jewelry and sell it from my home. And that was really fun, and it became a little side business for me. And things kind of picked up, and I thought, wow, this is kind of a fun little hobby, And then I did shows in my home for about a year and a half. And during that time we moved, so I took a couple months off. But I finally got back into a new home, and it was in December of 2009. And I had spent several weeks building some inventory of some jewelry to do a home show. And I even had bought equipment to hand stamp on some little silver blank tags, names or initials. And I had my daughter, who was 14, hand stamping some jewelry. And then I had bought some pieces on wholesale. I had designed some soldered charms with initials and all sorts of things. Anyway, I had just a house full of inventory. December 2009, a 2-day show in my home. And again, this is after about 18 months of doing home shows. I sold $20,000 in 2 days of jewelry. It was crazy. I had people lined out my door. They were late for carpool. I had bought 2 cash registers. I had all my sisters and my mom and everybody working for me. My daughter was hand stamping. And we had the best couple days of selling jewelry. It was amazing. Actually, we were in a brand new home, and that was my first show in that home in Alpine. And the police department actually showed up because they didn't know what was going on, why there were so many cars here. Kind of some complaints. So I wasn't able to continue doing those shows in my home. So that kind of led me into creating a line of jewelry that I could sell wholesale through local boutiques. And that's what I also did for a while then. So after that show in my home that reached, like I said, almost $20,000 in 2 days, my husband and I at the time decided it was time to take the business kind of to the next level. And so we met with a few experts to kind of get some direction. And I have a really good friend in Columbus, Ohio, and she said to me, Janet, you have such a great thing going here. You need to look in to direct sales. You need to let everybody else sell your jewelry outside of Utah, and you're going to be much more successful than if you were to sell it all yourself. And I didn't know too much about direct sales. This is the home party industry like Pampered Chef and Avon, Mary Kay, you know, where ladies get together and they have a party in their home and they sell jewelry or whatever it is. And so we looked into that industry and thought, okay, let's give this a try. Didn't know much about it. But with a few experts in the industry, before I knew it, I was the founder and president of a company called Kinkade in the direct selling world. And it was pretty amazing, and we were headquartered in my basement. So, yay me, right? Woohoo, a big business in my basement. Not really so big, but things were starting to look good. And within the first couple months, we had a few dozen stylists. We called our distributors or consultant stylists, and they were selling my jewelry. We gave them a little PDF to print a catalog, and we had about 2 dozen stylists kind of sprinkled throughout the country. I had friends in different places that would sign up in Texas and Ohio and Michigan and Fresno, California. So we kind of had a nice sprinkling of consultants all around. And it was exciting, but I was scared because I had no idea what was ahead of me. And then suddenly, my life turned upside down. And literally everything turned upside down, like completely unexpected. And it was in the fall of 2009 that I will never forget the moment. It was actually on my birthday, October 16th, and my husband and I were scheduled to fly together to Ann Arbor, Michigan, where our business, Kinkade, had kind of grew quickly there with some of our founding consultants. And we were holding our first company event there in Ann Arbor with about 70 consultants or stylists. But just days before that flight was to happen, I had discovered several things that led me to realize that my marriage was coming to an end. And I had decided that I needed to do this trip alone. So scared, sorry, this is like so long ago and it's still really touching. Very, very scared and not really sure what that meant, but I would need to go to Michigan on my own and come back and do life on my own. So I really didn't have much time to feel sorry for myself. I just had to get on that plane and go to Michigan, and I did. And I went alone, and I hadn't built up any Sky Miles or anything fancy, and for some reason I got bumped to first class, and that was my first time I'd ever sat in first class. I don't even know why, but it was just a little, little tender mercy that happened that day to make me feel a little bit better. But I took that flight to Michigan so scared, all by myself, feeling so small, so worried, taking on this new company all by myself. And in just a few hours, I knew I was going to land, and all those women were going to look at me like I knew what I was doing. And all I can say is I was just feeling like sheer dread, just pure scared. And what I really want to emphasize right here is that likely during your career, and whatever it may be, whether it's your own business or working for another company, you will likely have those moments of sheer dread along your journey. And you probably have days where you have no idea how you're going to pull it all off. And that is exactly how I was feeling. And you're going to wonder how you're going to survive the next minute, the next day, the next month, even the next year. You have no idea, but you go for it. You just do it. And kind of like you hear people say, there's no going around life's obstacles. You have to go through them. I couldn't pack up and go home. People were there waiting for me. They were expecting me to be there. And sometimes you might even be surprised how successful you'll come out on the other side. That's kind of how I felt. I went into this trip completely not knowing what to expect and came out feeling pretty empowered, like I can do this. And so for me, I had a little help getting through that first hurdle, thanks to all those women who were there waiting for me in Michigan. And they all welcomed me with love and warmth. I had never met these women. I had talked to them on the phone. I had shipped them jewelry for several months. Felt like we knew each other, but I'd never met them. But when I was there, they felt like family, and they needed me and I needed them. And the best thing about this group of women, when I walked in, kind of a room like this, they were all wearing Kinkade. They were all wearing my designs of jewelry, and I have never seen that much jewelry in one spot, and it was so touching to me and so fun, and it just kind of reassured me that they were there for me and that we were in this together and that we could do this. I want to share with you a little video. We'll go to the first video, and it's just about 5 minutes long, but this video, it's not new, it's actually quite old, but it kind of shows the emotion during this time. And we didn't have like a big video production team, but I wanted to kind of tell my story. And you can see the emotion, because we had to stop and cut this video several times. I couldn't stop crying. It was so emotional. And we even have some testimonials of some of our consultants, also emotional, because we all came together to help each other, and that's what business can do. Your story can touch other people's lives, create the story for them. So let's watch this video. One of the biggest things I have learned in life is that we really can accomplish more and even be more than we ever thought was possible. When I began designing jewelry, it wasn't so I could start my own company. It was really just to capture the love of my 5 children, to be creative, and to find a way to express myself. I really saw myself as a stay-at-home mom with a jewelry hobby. But as more people noticed my designs and I started selling at boutiques and at shows and even parties in my home, suddenly I began to see myself differently, with more confidence, and it was fun and exciting to connect with other women and to see them finding their own love of life and the beauty in my designs. I'll never forget, it was in October of 2009, and I was scheduled to fly to Michigan to meet with our first small group of stylists. And just before I was supposed to leave, I suddenly found my marriage coming to an end, and I was facing life ahead as a new single mom. It seemed as if my whole life had been turned upside down, and I remember wondering, can I really do this? Can I grow this company when my world seems to be falling apart? Can I really provide for my family? Should I just go get a regular job with regular hours, with insurance? Just remember wondering, will we be okay? But then as I would think about and look at my 5 sweet children, I really knew I only had one direction to go, and that was to move forward. So I took off from Michigan all by myself to meet the women that I really only ever talked to on the phone, but I felt like I knew them so well. And I will never forget what it meant to me to spend that weekend with them. And I remember walking in, and everyone was wearing Kinkade, and I'd never seen that before. Everybody in my designs, and it was so touching. After that, I came home ready to take it all on. I was determined to make Kinkade work, not only for me and my children, but now for all those amazing women who I've just met. We really are a company that does so much more than just share the artisan jewelry and custom home decor. We're really all in this together and all wanting to change lives. Kinkade's mission is reminding women everywhere of the power within. And each word of our mission carries a real special meaning.
The power within is a hard thing to find sometimes. We as women, moms, wives, we hide it. We hide our power. And so Kinkade gives us the ability to find that power that's deep inside us and make it come back to that to life? My husband, I think, has seen that woman that he fell in love with in the first place, and I had kind of lost myself a little bit, and he's seen that confidence come back and that joy come back, and I also feel like my daughters are able to see what it looks like to be able to be a great mom and be a part of the PTA board and volunteer in the community, but also be a successful businesswoman as well.
As I look at my own journey, I have learned so much about my own power within. I have learned that I can push through when times are tough, that I can trust my own creativity and intuition, and that I can provide for my family.
I started just as a way to make a little extra money for our family. And then some circumstances changed in our family, and I just didn't know what we were going to do. And because of Kinkade, I was able to really make Kinkade a priority, and I started doing more parties, and I started building a team, and because of that, I'm able to contribute financially to my family.
I realized that I needed to really quickly find a way to support my family right away. And I was just so grateful that I had Kinkade, that I could go out there and help my husband provide for our family. Where before it was just something that was great to have a little bit of extra money, it became something necessary to keep our family afloat.
As I talk to women who are thinking of joining Kinkade, the biggest thing I can share is to let your heart be your guide, and don't let fear stand in your way. Realize that you can accomplish more than you ever thought was possible. Go ahead and take that leap, because just like it's been with so many of us, Kinkade can truly help you find your own power within. Okay, you don't need to run out and join Kinkade. In fact, you can't anymore. It's been bought and moved on. But I wanted to share that with you just to emphasize the point that my little passion for making jewelry that I was pushed to do to support my family. Through my divorce, I was left with these 5 kids, and my ex-husband was unable to support us financially, so it was all up to me. So not only did this business change my life, provide for my family, it touched thousands of lives of other women who joined Kinkade to sell my jewelry. And so just know that whatever it is that's ticking in your head that you're passionate about, that you do for yourself, it could have a huge impact on other people. So don't give up on that, because you don't know the amount or the number of lives that you can change. I didn't believe that until I saw it. And that's what fueled me every single day. That's what got me out of bed when I didn't want to. My kids did as well, but it was those women who were counting on me because I followed my dream. I needed to get up for them. So don't give up on your dreams. I'm so grateful for those women that came into my life at just the right time, and we were support for each other. So if you are looking to build your own company, it's extremely important to gather good people around you. I had help. I had friends and family step in and help me. I couldn't pay them early on, but I promised them I would when I could. But it's important that you build a team. I never took on a project I didn't feel that I was capable of doing. I knew I could take care of product and make jewelry all day long and build those connections, and I could ship product through the post office. But I had to rely on other people to build my website and create my sales field. And so I gathered good people around me, and that saved me. Don't try to do it all on your own. Build a team early on. And I also was at a place in my life where I had to make this work. And that may not be your case, but because of my circumstances, I didn't have an entrepreneurial class to inspire me. My circumstances made me a little desperate, and that pushed me. My kids inspired me to follow through. I didn't want to go get a job and work 9 to 5 and not be there when my kids were young. So I was pushed, and because it was my own business, I was my own boss, I started in my basement, so I worked from home, and then we moved to an office basement, and then we were able to move into a nice corporate building, still right in Alpine, Utah. So I was just minutes from my home, was able to still be that mom that needed to be with my kids. So there's nothing like necessity to kind of fuel your momentum. If you find yourself in those times, just embrace that moment. It's really important to make your circumstances part of your story. And I didn't realize that because I didn't want to tell my story. I didn't want to tell the hard, sad things that I'd been through. But that's what shapes me and that's what built me. And you have to use your circumstances to build your story, and then you need to share that. As I look back on what we've accomplished, I'm amazed. And I don't remember like planning all of it. It just kind of happens because you've got people to push you and people that need you. So appreciative of the team I was able to build to push me through all of this. And our consultants, our stylists, early on didn't have a catalog, we didn't have a website, but we made it work, and I appreciate them, sticking with it. So you do need to manage your growth. We were a very small business, and I couldn't afford to build a really big team. So we did have people anxious to sign up to sell Kinkade, but we kind of had to take it at a slower pace to make sure we could keep up with what was happening here. So sometimes growth can kill you, and you've got to make sure you manage that. And luckily, I had a partner on my team that advised that, and I so appreciate that. Over the next few years, Kinkade grew. So let's see, about 2009, 2010, we kind of did our hard launch, had our consultants, and we grew a direct selling business for about 5 or 6 years. It was not easy, and there was so much of it that I didn't know. I didn't have the background or, the skill set to do all that, like, all the packaging that had to be built, branding and marketing, all the communications, fulfillment, designing new lines, which I could do, but there was also recognition for all of our consultants, building a comp plan to make sure everybody got paid their commissions and being able to track that online. And then we had big events. In the direct selling industry, you want to celebrate your consultants, those who are there selling your products. So we had conventions and conferences and incentive trips, really fun events. And a lot of the event pieces were really fun for me, picking a location and picking the decorations. But the hardest part for me was getting on stage and talking to these women, just like today. And it doesn't get any easier. I'm much more of a behind the scenes person. I can get very emotional, especially when I have people who are just there that really touch my heart. So being able to learn how to speak in front of all these people is something that I had to really dig down hard and do. But I love that that's given me the courage to do it more and more now. I've done some really hard things in life. I've been through a troubled marriage, we go four-wheeling in Moab. I've learned how to ski. I've learned how to public speak, and all of these things kind of shape who you are. But as you face hard things in your company, there's going to be countless hard things. You don't have to do them all at once. Take them on one at a time. And you can if you can face one hard thing at a time, you can get through all of them. And that's really what I had to do. I had to pace myself and do one hard thing at a time. And I had to tell my team, what I was capable of doing at the time. For example, my attention span was kind of small. So I was not great at meetings, and I had hired a CFO and a CEO, and we had all these meetings. And he would want me to conduct these meetings and lead these meetings and speak at these meetings, and they were all so hard for me. And so I just have to look back and kind of laugh at the way I would hold these meetings, but we did it to what worked for me, and I appreciate them kind of molding the company into not kind of push me past my limits. So anyway, so remember to tackle your things one thing at a time. But just like life, I've learned that you can balance things with, there's wonderful opportunities to balance things, and it's okay for things to challenge you. While I've conquered so much over the past 10 plus years, I am still experiencing so many new joys and challenges every single day. When Kinkade was bought by 31 Gifts, which was 4 years ago, I was super happy because I had reached a point in Kinkade where it kind of wasn't fun anymore. We grew and grew and grew, and we got to the point where our best year selling jewelry was about $20 million. And the more we sold, the less profitable it became. And the more I worked, and it took the fun away, and I was just kind of losing my passion for it. And I reached a point where if I was going to continue this journey, I needed some help. And I was ready to partner or get an investor. And though my team didn't agree, that's what I needed. I was working way too much. I was away from my kids too much. My passion was kind of fading. And I had a huge risk financially in this company, and I didn't want to take that chance of losing everything I had built. So I made that really hard decision to partner, to sell to 31 Gifts. And it's the best decision I made, even though I didn't have a lot of support from my team, because what that meant is our offices in Alpine, Utah, where we were employing about 100 people, making jewelry, shipping, fulfilling, a marketing team, a legal team, all kind of came to an end because 31 Gifts took over. It was a great spot for me, but it wasn't so great for everybody else. But I am grateful that I pushed through and did that, because I'm in a really great place now, and Kinkade has been beautifully co-branded into JK by 31, and it's just something that I'm really glad I took the chance and did, because I didn't want to run that risk of losing it all. So let me just give you a little bit of background about 31 Gifts. So at Kinkade, we sold our jewelry through catalogs. These are our last two catalogs. These are back from 2014. So we have about 75 pages of jewelry, and we evolved into home decor and wrapped canvases, and it was all handmade and artistic and lovely, and I got to be on the cover of the last catalog. 75 pages of jewelry. We had a huge inventory. So along comes 31 Gifts, and we are at a direct selling convention back in Washington, D.C., and my CEO meets Cindy Monroe, the founder of 31 Gifts, and they're talking, and he finds out that she is interested in trying to introduce jewelry into her line of product, which is handbags and home organization. Same thing, sold through consultants and distributors, 31 Gifts. And so my CEO said, well, gosh, we do jewelry, and Janet's in a place where she's ready to look for a partner and to sell and find a new home for Kinkade. And Cindy Monroe flew to Utah, we met, and we were friends at first sight. She was amazing. We're about the same age. She built her company out of her basement in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's very faith-based. It's very focused on women reaching their potential, exactly what I wanted for Kinkade. So we quickly put a deal together, and in December of 2014, Kinkade became JK by 31, and we launched a catalog. This is the first catalog that the jewelry was in that was titled Better Together. And I went from 85 pages of jewelry down to like 3. So you can see here just a small collection of jewelry in this 31 Gifts catalog. So a little different, but it was so good for me because finally I didn't have the risk. And when we did this in December of 2014, Kinkade had about 7,000 stylists, which is a big number. It was more than we could manage, and that was exciting. All across the country, 7,000 women selling jewelry. 31 Gifts at the time we bought, 70,000 consultants. So suddenly my jewelry was in the hands of so many more women, and I was able to make a bigger impact with my story, my passion for design, and helping support women through this wonderful sisterhood of direct sales. So I love that even though I've scaled down to only like 4 pages of jewelry in their catalog, I am reaching so many more women that can make a bigger impact on their life. And it's just been an amazing home for me now to be with 31 Gifts. I do like to, at Kinkade, you saw in the video, our theme, or kind of our mission statement, was reminding women everywhere of the power within. And yes, my industry is mostly women. At 31 Gifts, there are a few men, but I think it's so important to dig deep to know that we all do have that power within. There are so many days where I doubted myself, but it's there. And it's exciting to dig deep and to find it. To this day, I still set goals because I need those to push me. And I always make sure that when I'm setting goals, a little bit of it scares me, but a lot of it excites me. And so if you can set goals that are a little bit scary, But at the end result, even coming here was a little bit scary, but I knew it was going to be so exciting. So make sure that you have a little bit of risk, but a big reward on the back end when you're setting goals. I think that's very, very important. I think some important lessons that I learned throughout my career, and it's not that the jewelry is special. I definitely found a niche in the industry back in 2009, and I think it's because my jewelry told a story. It told my story, and it told a story of the women who were wearing it, whether it was their initial or their birthstone or their picture. And so there is opportunity for so much out there, but you need to build in some emotion, something meaningful, and just recreate something that's already successful into something new, like the jewelry. It's not like I invented jewelry, but I just found a way to make it meaningful and to tell my story, and then it becomes something that people really want to be a part of. And I think we also need to realize that you are capable of more than you realize. And I've learned that. It's taken me 10 years of feeling like I can't do it and people pushing me. And we really are all capable of so much more than we realize. And you have to apply yourself. You have to take risks, big risks, which are so hard. You have to surround yourself with great people. You have to face the hard stuff, and you have to be yourself. Through all of this, I never doubted my gut feeling, and I wanted to stay authentic. In fact, at 31 Gifts, we do custom leather bracelets, and the one I wear says, "Be authentic," because I always try to stay true to myself, and I believe that's gotten me where I am. I've got a team of people that guide me, but in the end, I have always stayed true to myself, and I think that that's so important to remember. I do just want to kind of give you a glimpse of where I'm at now. So 4 years ago, Kinkade, bought by 31 Gifts. We're JK by 31. I am living the dream. I have created the most amazing job for myself. I don't have the risk that I used to have. I get to be a part of the jewelry that is inside this catalog. I inspire it, and then we have a team in Columbus, Ohio that designs it. I am on the product marketing team for 31, and I get to they have handbags. See my cute black handbag there? I get to show off amazing product. They have me do videos to show off the purses, and we do home decor, and we do jewelry, and we do custom wood decor in your home. I can't think what it's called right now. And so I just have really created a position for myself that I absolutely love. And it's because I stuck to my passion, my dream, and put myself where I needed to be at the right time and didn't try to take too much on. I also love that I get to be a huge impact in so many women's lives through the direct selling industry. There's a sisterhood that happens, and women who sell product through home parties or through social media, I love being a part of that because it's changing their life. And whether they're making $300 a month or $3,000 a month, I get to be a part of that, and we get to celebrate them. And I was in New York last week. We were celebrating moms from a public school in the Bronx just for being moms of these cute kids who don't have a lot of them don't have spouses. And our company 31 Gifts is all about celebrate, encourage, and reward. And I think that's so important, and if we can do that, success just follows. So I've created a job for myself that I absolutely love. I have 2 daughters that I get to work with. My oldest daughter, Ria, was a graphic designer, and she is a freelance artist for 31 Gifts and does all their stationery and paper goods. And then my second daughter, Sierra, is a videographer. And so here in Utah, 31 Gifts will send me all sorts of new product, and my daughter, Sierra, and I go out and we make videos showing off all the cute new product. So I get to work with my kids. I am still a single mom, and I'm able to support myself and have the freedom and flexibility that I so love and appreciate. So before I wrap it up, I just want to show you one more quick video. This is a video that my daughter did. We just did this like 2 weeks ago. This is their new little fanny pack that just came out, but this just kind of shows you how we've evolved into what I do now, which is product marketing for all the great product at 31 Gifts, and it's a job I absolutely love. that video may not mean much to you, but the reason I show it to you is the impact it has. And so my daughter made that video, and it's given her a little job. 31 Gifts will share that video with their consultants. It's had several 100,000 shares since we posted it. I had a lady message me just a couple days ago. Because of that video, she made $800 commission from that little belt bag. And so the impact that we have is pretty remarkable. And so if we just all work together, amazing things can happen. So we're out of time, and I would love to answer some questions, but I just excited for all of you, and just want you to just know that whatever it is that you desire to do, it will not only impact and change your life, but most likely lives of many other people. So thank you, and if we have time for questions, I'd be happy to take some.
We've got about 5 minutes for questions.
Yes?
Did you have a patent on any of your products?
When we got to 31 Gifts, we did. We created a, not with Kinkade, we didn't. We didn't need it. I didn't invent soldering or the techniques that we used. But at 31 Gifts, we had a piece of jewelry that we got a patent on. It was a fancy little clasp that we still use and have a patent on that. Yes.
What was the transition like going from owner to to working for another company?
Really hard, harder than I thought it would be. Although I was ready, kind of like from a emotional point, much harder than I thought, not being in complete control and still designing jewelry, but the end result was a little different than I had seen it, because we were a little bit cost challenged and different things, and their customer was a little different. So I definitely lost some of the control that I had as being an owner. But I had to learn to just appreciate that, because I was also at a much more comfortable position. But it was tricky. It's different to all of a sudden go work for somebody after being on your own. But still have great flexibility, and they've been amazing to me. So it's been great.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, I'll guess. Huh? There's one right here.
The women that were working for your company directly, did they transition to working for the new company, or did they transition out of it?
Good question. So our consultants all had the opportunity to join. So 31 gave them all a free enrollment kit, which is a $99 value, to join 31 Gifts and to come over at the same level of leadership that they were at Kinkade. And we had several hundred do that. Some faded away, some are still currently there. And then we had quite a large staff of employees out in Alpine, Utah. And we had like a HR day where we had like Unique was just evolving at the time, and a scrapbook company, we had them come out, and a lot of our employees were able to transition to doTERRA or Unique and land some good jobs. So we tried to make sure everybody had a place to go.
Oh, so my question was, at some point you were physically making the jewelry yourself,
Right.
and then you transitioned to somebody else making the jewelry. Can you talk about that process, and were you was it difficult to accept other people's renderings of your work?
Yes, so hard. I didn't want to let go of that. And I did hand make all the charms that were kind of the hero product of Kinkade. Handmade all those. The first person I taught how to make those, the soldering technique, was my nephew. And so I was able to kind of really be, critical and make sure he did them just right. And he got to be really great. And so then he was kind of over that department of teaching others how to do this. And it just worked. And you do kind of let go of the perfection. The great thing about handmade jewelry is they're all a little bit different. It's kind of the imperfections that make them unique and one of a kind. But I did have to learn to kind of let go. And we, to the very end, we handmade a lot of the jewelry. As we grew, I was able to design things and have it outsourced, a lot of pieces, rings and bracelets to kind of accompany the handmade product. But that was a very fun transition to working with sourcing overseas and other factories. Any more?
Okay, one more question maybe? All right.
We're good?
Questions? Hey, we would like to present Janet with the Thunderbird Award in recognition of the time and effort it took. So she had other plans for today, and she rearranged to make it possible to come down here. So we are very grateful for the time that you've taken and appreciate it. So
Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you.